Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It is so wonderful to have you here today. I am interviewing Brandon Blinn of Blinn Fitness, and this is part of a series I'm doing where I'm interviewing folks from different industries, different walks of life, different occupations, so as to talk about how they have integrated their own personal intuition and energy into what it is that they do. Because we are not all meant to be energy healers. If you are, that's wonderful. But I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see out there. It's either, oh, well, once I understand how to do energy healing, I have to go help the world or save the world. That's why this is called your energy first, because by doing what feels true and aligned to you, you are actually contributing to this world. And Brandon is such a great example of that because he actually does, oh gosh, wow, what a great host I am. I'm going to butcher this. Weight training? He has a gym and he trains people. Heavy lifting, I think that's what it's called. I remember hearing it for the first time when he was talking about it. But normally we might think of that sport as very macho. And he brings a different light and a different element to things that I think is very inviting. We also talk about the divine masculine and feminine, how to bring more of, how to encourage a partner's spiritual path who may not be quite down that road yet. And he also makes a few book recommendations. I get that question a lot. What books do I recommend? And I like to ask guests that so that we can get a variety. So without further ado, here is the session with Brandon.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Your Energy First podcast. I'm your host, Emily Marie, along with Lord knows what else, spirit team, spirit guides, all of the light here to help and support us. I've never opened the podcast like that before, by the way.
Cool.
I can totally feel the energy co-creating with you in the room. So Brandon is the owner of Blinn Fitness, and I was actually introduced to him by his wifey, Dakota, who is my esthetician, and she started dating you. How many years ago was that?
3 or 4.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
So crazy. Time flies.
Yeah.
And then I started training with you. And part of the reason I want to interview you for this podcast is because one of the energetic trends I'm seeing is that, God, my heart's racing right now from the energy work. This is wild. When your energy expands, folks, sometimes your heart might race. It's just your physical body reacting to catching up with the expansion. Yeah. So part of this energetic trend that's happening in the world, more like in Western culture right now, is that people are aligning with their soul. We work on mind, body. And then let me just remove this fuzz off of my microphone. We're so professional here, guys. But there's this trend of people bringing more of their intuitive selves, their energetic selves, and that is their own personal skill sets into whatever it is their career, purpose, life is. And you have done that in such a cool way with your gym because you are a weightlifting, weight training gym. And this is the first type of gym like this I've been a part of, and I've never felt more welcome or seen such good results or met so many cool people or had so many cool experiences. It's like the opposite of what you think of a typical gym would be. And then during our sessions, you are so particular with me on form, and my results are insane. I mean, it's crazy. And even in the first month, and we weren't expecting results in the first month. And so I love that about you, and we're going to talk about that. But also start us back from the beginning and kind of why you got into this field in the first place.
Okay. So back in high school, one of my coaches took me to his place, to his house. He's like, hey, you got potential? Let's work out. I was like, all right, cool. I'm one of the cool guys. I got invited to the coach's house with all the strong guys. I was like, yeah, feeling all good. Go to his house, and I'm the weakest one there. I was like, what the hell? And so I started getting obsessed with how does one get stronger? How does one get faster? What makes someone stronger? What makes for my own personal benefit so I could keep up? Because my ego wanted me to be the strongest man in the room.
Of course.
Of course, right? Because you're taught that through sports. So I did a bunch of research on that. Still didn't end up being one of the strongest, but that led me into football. And through football, I still practiced it, still learned it, just became obsessed because it was helping me with football. And then after football, I wanted to be a trainer, and I wanted to get into powerlifting because I wanted to still compete. And when I started working at the gyms, I would see them take advantage of people to make sales. Like, I witnessed it firsthand of them trying to get me to make up stories and kind of find objections for them to overcome.
Right.
So that way when they had the objections to training, they'd be like, oh no, you already said this earlier, you should be able to buy it. So I watched that kind of stuff go down. I was like, this isn't right. This isn't helping people. This is just taking their money and not giving them a workout. And then it's doing long-term damage, and they're like, oh, you're just doing it wrong, or they'll blame it on something they're doing outside. So
Right.
I just wanted to find a place where you could get an honest service. You could be taught how to do things properly and safely, and not really also have a place where you're judged about anything you do, where you can just completely be yourself, where you don't have to like walk in and be the tough guy. You don't have to be mean to anyone. You can just be nice and no one's like judged.
Right.
So
right.
I created that.
That's really cool.
And
you
we are
did.
here.
Yeah, you did create that for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. What's powerlifting?
Powerlifting it's a strength sport. It's basically where you
It's a
get
sport?
Yeah, it's actually a sport. Yeah, they
I had no clue.
I think at one point it was part of the Olympics, and then it got taken out, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But they do have there's competitions worldwide. It's where you bench, squat, and deadlift, and you get 3 attempts at each lift, and you're basically just going for the highest amount you can possibly lift. And the cool thing about it is when you go, everyone that meets is kind of competing with each other versus against each other. So they're always cheering others on because you're only competing with yourself. So it's a very knit environment, a happily knit environment, if you will, where everyone's just cheering everyone regardless of what their goals are. It's just very supportive versus like, I'm going to beat him. It's more of like, I mean, there's still obviously that competitive atmosphere, but there's like a lot of local meets. You'll meet a lot of cool people that are like, yeah, good job. And you're like, I like that.
I would not think that at all.
No,
Because
right?
you only see a few snapshots on social media or on YouTube, and all I think is like protein shakes and like bumping chests.
Yeah, but it's like once you get to know a lot of the people, this is my thought, is in the powerlifting and bodybuilding industry, people develop these tough-looking exteriors because of insecurities of being judged by others. And so I feel like when they do that, they're kind of just covering that up. When they make themselves look tough, they're kind of covering up from being picked on.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, it's like a self-defense mechanism, but because when you get to know them, they're all sweethearts. They're all like really nice. So a lot of them are tatted, mean looking, and you're like, hey, how's it going? They're like, oh, hey man, how's it go? You know, like they're just so nice, but they look that part, so no one kind of like messes with them, because I'm assuming something from their childhood made them feel that way.
Right. So what would you say to someone like me who feels really sensitive and like, I'm going to walk into a gym, I don't know what I'm doing? Where would you tell someone like me to start?
Come to my gym.
This is global, so I know it's crazy.
So if someone were to start, I would focus on finding proper coaches in your area that actually truly care. You can tell the difference between someone, because they'll go the extra mile when they don't have to, and finding someone that understands human anatomy and doesn't just go straight to like sales deals and upgrading and like kind of being pushy. Find people that generally care, and usually the box gyms have a little bit more of a knit community sense versus a commercial gym. So if you can find yourself a box gym near you, those are much more community driven, and you'll find a lot more people are willing to talk and like create relationships at those kind of gyms that make people feel welcomed.
That's a good point. So like look for, because I think naturally what we do is we gravitate towards the big name gyms, and we need to go to more of the niche gyms.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So talk to me about how has your intuition helped you develop where you're at today? Because, well, your first gym, there's a picture of it hanging here in this gym.
Yeah.
It's very different from this one.
Yeah, a little bit. It's so I knew I wanted to open a gym when I was 17. And I told my stepmom, I wrote this in my book too. I wrote this in my, when I told my stepmom, I said, hey, I'm going to open a gym. And she goes, okay, Brandon. Like, I took that as like
right.
You don't think I can do it?
Yeah. Are you challenging me?
Yeah. So, I just knew I wanted to open a gym. And since then, like that day of, I've just decided like, I was reading books on marketing, business, training, gym equipment, like how to be the best trainer. Because for me, I've never been like the strongest or the leanest or like been able to use like genetics, like look how shredded you can get, right? So my thought is I'll just become the smartest. I'll know as much as I can about everything I can that's in my potential to help others. So a lot of the times, I think I'm going off track here, but I'll just tell this and then go back. A lot of times, like if I have a client before who had something going on, such as scheduling or an injury or anything like that they needed to overcome, I would go research that on how to fix it and figure out that problem, like break it down and figuring, like for instance, if someone knee hurt when they bent it, I'd look up possible causes of knee bend. I'd dive down a rabbit hole and figure out what is that. And then I did that enough times and I started remembering these things. I'm like, oh, that's the same problem as that. Oh, and so you just develop this intuition after that. That's kind of what I was going into. So my intuition was basically telling me, get all the knowledge you can, train, spread that, teach others how to do it. And then as I did that, the business just grew. So as I worked on myself more, the business
What are
grew.
you saying?
I know.
Are you saying when you
nuts.
focused on your energy first, you helped more people?
And the crazy part is I was manifesting stuff and not realizing it. Because when I was sitting there, I didn't know I could manifest, I want to open a gym. I want to open a gym. I just kept telling myself, that's what I want to do. But in my head, part of me, probably the younger me, was like, if you own a gym, you'll be badass too, and you'll look cool. And now it's more about turning into, I can spread more love and positivity through lifting and help develop lifestyles.
Right. And by the way, Brandon's not just blowing smoke when he says that. He actually does do that. And not in a, I would say there's a lot of that fluff out there, and it's definitely not fluffy. So when it comes to, so it sounds like your intuition was kind of helping you navigate your special energy skill set, and you did, even though it was working in a gym in a very masculine world.
Yeah. And I feel like through understanding myself more and more is I found out that I have feminine energy, which everyone does. But when you're younger, you're like, guys, like feminine energy, like, no, like you can have the, what we call masculine traits and feminine traits, because we're both.
What are some of the things you've done to help yourself embrace the feminine?
Whew. Well, honestly, part of it is I've just recognized that from training, I just get along better with females. Like we almost have more in common than when I talk to males. And so I've noticed that through that, I'm like, oh, this is strange. I used to wonder why, but it's probably because I have more feminine energy. So it's on the same frequency, I'm assuming. I forgot where I was going with that other part.
What did you do to embrace the more
embrace
feminine?
that. So, like in doing that, I think through realizing that I'm more feminine, I started meditating and breaking things down of why I have this. I feel like in our brains have what a female should be like, what a male should be like. So so figuring out through meditation to undo those things of how I think they should be, because there is no what should be. It's just is, you know.
That's the truth. Humans make it a little more complex than that.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you first started meditating? What tools did you use?
You definitely you.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
I had no idea. That was not a lead-in, folks.
No. She doesn't know this. I tell this every time when people ask, because I'll talk about energy work regularly now at my job with my clients.
All the time.
All the time. And they'll ask like, wow, what did you like? They always like treat it as if I know this secret, and like, how do you know this? And like, or how do you think this way? And I'll always tell them Emily, because when we started doing energy healings, she used to come to our gym. And Dakota Bar, she says, you want to do an energy healing? I was like, well, that sounds cool, because for some odd coincidence, right before I met her, I was getting into energy work, not realizing I'd read the book Becoming Supernatural. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then right at the same time, I got introduced to energy readings. I don't think so. So I did that, and I was like, in the meditation that we were doing, I was like, oh my God, I can like see what she's talking about. I can feel it. This is from that book. And I was able to make connections with the book and meditating. And it allowed me to go home and practice these same techniques and experiment with things, and then read even more and just figure this out. And the more I dive into it, the more I'm intrigued by it. And then you also don't look at life the same when you do stuff anymore. It's like your perception of life is permanently changed, but for a good way. In a good way, you see different things you normally wouldn't.
Right. So this is actually a little bit of a, what's the word? I'm going to say contentious. The guides gave me the word contentious. By the way, if you're new to this podcast, welcome. I hold space for the highest good of all involved. So that means that your soul is going to participate in whatever it is it needs to receive via your source and your spirit team, right? Because we're anchors for each other on earth, and we co-create all the time. This is just, when I say hold space, it's more of a proactive approach. So, and the spirit team will drop in words to help things resonate and land more. But they're saying that this is kind of a contentious point in the, the spiritual healing community, this idea that once you've spiritually awakened, which you're always on your spiritual journey, by the way, I get so sick and tired of this woke, not woke BS. Who cares? Your journey is beautiful exactly as it is. And if anyone compares or says otherwise, send them to me. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely don't. But know that that's not true. So literally there's a lot of similarities in people's journeys as far as themes go, but everybody's is meant to look different. So, but there's this idea that, okay, well, once I'm going through the spiritual awakening, all my relationships have to change. I have to switch careers. I have to find my purpose. I have to save the world. And how has Dakota does her own personal work, inner work. Mm-hmm. You do your inner work. What's it been like for you to kind of going through this process together and separately? We could do 5 more episodes on this topic alone.
Okay, let's see here. So, this is good. Dakota's actually pushed me a lot to get working on myself better because she is very blunt and stern.
I'm going to put a pin in this for a second. So, and also she's well educated.
Yes.
So when she's blunt and stern, she's educated on what she shares.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people who women who listen to this podcast who feel like, yeah, I'm having to lead a little bit in regards to the spirituality of things.
Yeah.
That can be a feminine trait, though, is to, when you work on yourself, hold space to kind of support others moving forward. I wouldn't say guide people moving forward, because that sounds like you're kind of in charge, and it's not. But yeah, encouraging that soft awakening.
Yeah.
And then we still need the masculine energy to help calm down our nervous system and be the literal, like sometimes you guys are like the literal pillar of strength, physical strength, to help calm our energy when it's buck wild.
Yeah.
Do you know one of the ways that you're supposed to do that? I found out.
What?
You're supposed to, like, so if you're like face to face with her and you hug her and you press your stomach up against her, and that's supposed to help calm her nervous system. And then you ask her what it is she needs. And then you see, okay, she'll say she needs whatever, cuddles with a cat, a bath, and some whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'll take care of dinner.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
It's so simple, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, when we talk and she would say things in a certain way, she would just say it to me and like, this is what you're doing. And I'd try to fight it. I'd be like, no, because I don't want to be wrong. No.
Right.
And then I go back and she says, you need to think. And then I go back and I think, and I'd have these epiphanies. I'm like, oh, she was looking at the bigger picture, not like up close like I was. So it allowed me to step back and look at myself and see, oh, hey, okay, when she's feeling this way, she needs this. When she's doing this, she needs this. And sometimes it's just me being there that makes her feel better, which is what I've recognized versus always trying to solve a problem. What's wrong? How can I help? What can I do better?
We need masculine presence.
You just are there. You're just existing with them. And I feel like that's really helped our relationships for when we talk, because when we argue or fight, which we really don't anymore at this point, we're able to talk and see and kind of feel like, oh, Brandon's sad, I need to do this. Oh, she's happy to keep doing this. Like, it allows you to read them much better. So you're giving the response that you truly want to give, and then you're putting that in a way that they can reciprocate that. That makes them feel happy as well.
Yeah.
So it makes the mesh really easy to just handle things and then be able to reflect and look in a different light. And it makes the relationship like 10 times better.
So what were some of the tools either she gave you or you found yourself? So book recommendations. Obviously, I'm coming out with a book next year, Your Energy First, but there are so many good books out there already with really incredible themes. And I feel like sometimes we need to ingest information in a variety of different ways in order for us to let it fully stick.
Yeah.
And you have been heavy on the reading.
The heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not a big book reader when it comes to this stuff. So what have you found that you really like? Which books or what tools besides meditating?
So I actually just go out and I'll find books that are related, and I've just been picking them, or I'll go off TikTok recommendations sometimes,
Absolutely.
And
Love
so
the
one of the
talks.
first ones I did was Becoming Supernatural.
By Joe Dispenza.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Okay. And I was like, wow. Like a lot of the stuff that I was reading, I was like, this makes sense. Like this, I've been doing this and I don't even know it.
He's really good for if you have anyone in your life who's more masculine oriented or more task oriented.
Yeah.
He's really good for that. He explains it in a way that, in my opinion, anyone with more dominant male energies, masculine energies, can understand.
100%.
Yeah. Whereas me, I read that stuff and I'm like, ugh. No, I think no. I mean, like, it's great. It's more just the delivery for me is a little bit rougher.
Get it. And then after that, I got Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by him because I was like, this is good. In between that, I got another one by Bruce Lee called The Warrior Within.
Ooh.
That one, Bruce Lee's mindset is nuts. Bruce Lee's mindset is so nuts. It's
What's
so
his
healthy.
mindset?
It's just like, one of the ones that stands out to me is he's saying just a very popular one, be like water. And he thought of that when he was on a boat. And he noticed when he put his hands down in the water just formed to what was happening to it. So he says, it's something along the lines of this. I don't remember it to the T, but it's like, be like water. You put it in the cup, it becomes a cup. You put it around the cup, it becomes around the cup. But basically explaining and saying that if you're like water, you're just going with it. Like whatever you feel and you're experiencing is okay. If you're feeling like stressed out or anxious for a sec, that's okay.
Right.
If you're feeling happy, that's okay. Like everything how you feel is okay. And that's what he's kind of implying when he says just be like water, go with the flow.
That's beautiful.
It's so cool.
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is we think we're doing life wrong when we have those shit moments.
Yeah, and there's no bad moments. It's just like what we give the title to of it,
Right.
There's no good or bad, and that's what people get wrapped up on.
Right. Well, if we didn't have that adversity in our life, how would we? The only time I've really sought out and dug deep, because I've always had an interest in this type of thing, but the only time I've actually really gone there and made massive shifts in my life is when I faced adversity like that.
Yeah.
Like when I was in states of depression or anxiety, or, my life wasn't how in a way that felt, excuse me, no worries, that felt good to me. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that. So if you could think of like one thing, so, because I know Dakota, I know she was going through her, she was doing so much. What was one thing you could tell people listening, how did she help you? Like, how can they support their significant other in sort of opening themselves up to this path?
I got you guys. Also, on a side note too, check out The Law of One. That's another really big one.
You love that book.
Oh my God.
You talk about it all the time.
Good.
Yeah.
So good. Okay.
The Law of One.
So we're talking about how a female can go and approach a male essentially and like without making them essentially get angry.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay,
Fair.
I got this one down. I have figured this out. So I feel like if a male has a problem, or if a female has a problem with a male or wife, or anything, if anyone has a problem with anyone and they address it in a certain manner, it depends on, I feel like, this is so hard to word. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me.
Energy's weird to word.
Okay, so let's say a man has an ego. He's not aware of it, and he thinks, oh, they can't talk to me like that. This is actually something I've experienced firsthand. So this is from experience, and then I see it in other males too. So I had to do some work, and when Dakota would talk to me stern, which is totally fine, she can talk to me however she wants, but I would take that a certain way, and I had to think without realizing it. Ingrained misogyny made you think as a male, like, oh, they can't talk to me like that. Why is that? Because like people are always making jokes about it. And so when she talked to me in a stern way, I'd be like, oh, you can't talk. And so I get mad. Because I felt disrespected because of how she was talking. But that was just how I was taking it because my ego was preventing me. So as soon as I figured out, oh, I need to understand that she's just being stern and she's not attacking me, that's what helped. And so, oh man, where was I going with that? Hold on.
I literally just double checked that we were recording.
Okay, good.
We are.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Because give me some time on this, because this one's, bear with me. Okay, so I would take it as disrespectful. And then someone who's not doing the work and won't realize that in themselves, right? So a man will not realize it. So they'll just go in all the time and get mad and figure out, oh, so what you do is you play the reverse game. Pay attention here, guys. This is a good one. you address it in a way where they can't get mad or they won't get disrespected. So if you can word it in a way of which it's more calm, polite, and like not, and don't make them feel attacked, they're going to be much more reciprocative.
Sure, whatever.
Okay,
we get the idea.
Words, it's fine. So that way, what they're going to do is, instead of feeling attacked, because that's their first defense mechanism, they're going to respond back because they're going to have something to say because their anger's not taking control. And now you have a guy who's you had a problem with, but you addressed it in a manner. But now, if they're willing to do the work, you won't have to address it in any manner. You can just be stern how you want. But this is everyone's different, and some people are at different points. That's my assumption. That is what I would say is, so address it in a manner where they may not feel attacked, or you just help them like essentially figure out why they get so angry so quickly, because there's a reason. People don't just get angry like when you stub your toe. Why do we get so mad when we're late? We get so mad, but what's causing us to be mad?
So if we're arguing, or I say something that instigates you getting angry, my response would be, why do you think you're having this reaction to this right now? Like that, or no?
Yeah, you could be that. Like, can I ask you what I like? Yeah, like you could say, what did I do to upset you? Then they're gonna say, blah, 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 right? And you're gonna be like, well, why?
Yeah.
And then you stay calm, and they'll be mad, and you'll say why, but like don't start attacking again. Say why, like genuinely curious, and then eventually you'll break it down enough. Dakota has shown me this without even realizing it, but you break something down enough, it just will be it'll bring themselves back to reality, kind of like why, why, why,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden you have it broken down. They're like, oh,
yeah.
That's happened with me and Dakota, where she would do that, and I'd have the epiphany and be like, oh.
Yeah. So just keep, it's funny because the guides do that in one-on-one client sessions, right? Like, your client sessions too, they just keep asking you questions. And we got to do the self-discovery route, right? It's so different when we figure it out ourselves and have an aha moment versus someone telling us.
It just makes things so much clearer too.
Yeah. So what if someone is in a relationship and their partner isn't doing, let's call it spiritual work, like energy work? What would you say? Like, have a conversation with him. This is important to me. It would feel really good because I'm a direct communicator too. By the way, if you're interested in your communication style, I recommend Human Design and also your astrology chart. Where does your Mars sit? That's all I know about astrology. So yeah, how would you want someone to approach you and say, hey, I want you to develop your spiritualness, your energy stuff? I know.
Honestly, it would depend on the state that I'm in of how it would benefit me. Because I feel like a lot of people, we like to do stuff and have something on the other side. And you can't just always say, oh, hey, if you do this, you're going to be happy. But really that is how simple it is. And I feel like maybe recommending specific books can help, or just finding something to connect it to. It's connected to everything. It's in everything. It's in all of us. So there has to be an interest where that he really has that special thing that you can connect it and bring it back to, which he'll look further into it, be like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool,
Yeah.
So I feel like, because if you're like too pushy, it starts getting annoying. Like, what are you doing?
I feel like fulfillment is our ultimate goal on earth. That's kind of this wave that's coming in, and you can only get fulfillment from within yourself. Like you literally can't get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
I've tried. And there's different types of fulfillment, of course. I mean, there is the type of fulfillment that does happen with other people. But I think about, you look at where we were even 60 years ago, and we were all in very traditional roles. And nowadays, it's all about the experience that we're having here on earth. So what if someone approached it on like, hey, I want to feel more fulfilled in life. I'm going to work on this element of myself. What would that look like for you? What does your fulfillment look like for you?
Doing things that make me happy and let me think clearly. So I have, it's even hard for me to talk quite often just because of how my brain works.
Right.
And so I notice myself doing things like this where like I'll stutter in my head or whatnot. And so sometimes I like to reflect on why I do that, and also kind of find a place where I can just be quiet and just have time to myself. So I would always say, do things for you. So for me, working out, headphones in, sometimes headphones out if I'm feeling a little more social, stretching in the morning, I get up about 2 hours before I have to do anything on the good days. It's not every day because we're not perfect. So sometimes I'll do like 30 minutes, but in the mornings I'll try to make tea, and then I'll read, and then I'll stretch, and then I'll meditate by my plants. And those 4 things, when I get all 4 of those things in a day, it's a 10 out of 10 day.
Love that.
And so I'll do small things like go on walks, because it teaches you just to be in the present moment, and you kind of teach yourself to turn your brain off and not think about what's in the past, what's in the present, or anything like that.
That's so funny you said that, because I just learned this last weekend that the masculine needs to be by himself in nature or with other. And by the way, I'm going to make some recommendations. It's fluid too, right? So maybe you're in a different type of relationship and it's not just hetero, cis, masculine, feminine. This goes for all, but to help balance your masculine energies, especially, and rebuild your testosterone. Mm-hmm. Because when you are working at the gym, when you're in your relationship, that's demand time. Like, the people need you for a certain reason. Whereas when you're by yourself in nature or just with other men, they're not demanding anything from you. And so your testosterone rebuilds. It's John Wineland, by the way. And I've only listened to some of his stuff, but it's been great so far. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever like full on recommend someone, but there's great information for everything.
I did not know that.
I just learned it too.
That's nuts.
And doesn't it make sense?
Get it? It's nuts.
Yeah. Touche. So one other thing, your gym, you're a trainer, and what transformations are you seeing happening in people right now?
Oh my God. So many.
Yeah.
So many.
Name a few of them.
I have regularly people coming in and getting promotions at their job. I have people coming in talking about how happy they are. I have people coming in talking about how they're advancing on their business that they started. Seeing mostly like personal. Is it still there? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mostly seeing like personal, like doing things for themselves and finding more happiness. Like, literally, people, when they've been coming here, they'll talk about how they now look forward to the gym, how it's exciting to them, how they're like feel like part of something, and you kind of know that that's carrying on into their everyday life. So you can see this overall happiness and glow in their face that they didn't have when they started.
Cool.
It's really cool.
I think that's been, so again, another big energetic trend I'm seeing now more than ever. It's like we're being called, we have to take care of our physical bodies even better than we have been. We have to. And that is, so what you're saying is when people invest in their health, that's the response that they're getting?
Yes. And then also, of course, all the transformations for their bodies. Like, I mean, people come in with specific goals. They've been getting their strength goals. They like to see the numbers go up on the bar. People like to see their transformations. Everyone has different goals. There's no right or wrong. But it's really...
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I just interrupted.
Go for it.
Let's talk about that for a second. Everyone has different goals, because if I'm someone in, Utah, and I listen to this podcast and I'm like, okay, I'm going to set an intention that I find the right trainer for me for the highest good of all involved, because that's what we do at the right gym. And then you come across this gym and you're still trepidatious, right? As we all are. Nervous. Yep. I was nervous coming in here, and I know you guys. And so I totally lost my train of thought.
I got you.
Goals. So I remember when we first started working together and we went over the goals, it was just health, right? Yeah. So what could someone's goals be, or what could they tell someone their goals would be going to the gym?
I got you. Okay, so
you like this topic?
I love this topic. So I've had a few clients, for example, I've had several clients go off their antidepressants completely. So they started taking them. They told me they're on them, and as they were training with me, they'd lower the dose until they got completely off that. So anything mental health related, that could also be a goal. You can have goals for strength. You can have goals to run a mile in a shorter time. You can have goals to be out of pain and be more flexible. There's so many different goals, and a lot of things that you'll see on social media will kind of direct you to one, and that's you have to transform. No, some people like just being as they are, and they want to have performance, and there's a difference between the two. So I feel like it's important to figure out what you enjoy and why you want your goal, and then pick it from there. Anything you want to improve in the sense of physicality, looks, or performance, you can do all of them. It doesn't have to be just, okay, lose this body fat so you can look better. That'll be a product of any of the other goals you pick as well, because the idea is to move your body.
Right. I love that. And I would also say be really particular about form. You're so particular about form. We will spend as much time talking about form as we will lifting. And believe me, I've done things I never thought I could do. And that has been such a key.
That is definitely a huge goal too, is to be able to have full range of motion. That's a big one I have all my clients do. And that just makes everyday living better. And it makes you, if you're moving properly, it's going to allow you to utilize more muscles, which is going to allow you to burn more calories, which allows you to be in a caloric deficit, which allows you to burn fat. So really, like, if you break everything down in fitness related, if you have form down, you're going to be better off. It also just helps with longevity in lifting and overall health. And that is a huge one that I'm really big on, is making sure people understand what they're doing, what they're using, and how they're doing it. So that way they can like actually visualize and do it properly. And it makes it safer.
Yeah. Safety's good.
Yep. Safety's good.
First. The other thing I noticed when we set goals, I came in and I thought, I'm just going to be real about my goals. And I said, this is a long-term game for me. I want to learn. I want to grow. So those were my goals. My goals were just like better health.
Yep.
And I know it seems like, again, in a masculine world, in a masculine gym, how much weight, how many inches, bone, all that stuff. And instead it was like health, and just a steady incline and improvement, which was very odd for me to come to a gym and not have these super aggressive goals. So just saying that, giving people permission out there to do that if they need to.
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. So where can people find you?
Let's see. You guys can find me pretty much at this gym 24/7. No, I'm just kidding. We have Instagram. It's Blinn_Fitness. And then we also have a website. It's blinnfitstudio.com.
And it's 2 N's.
Yes, 2 N's.
And Tank's here.
Yes, Tank is here. There's photos on the website if you'd like to see him.
Yeah. So good. So good. So yeah, it is. And if you are in the Seattle area, this gym has events. And trust me when I say, no matter your fitness level, you can join these events. Truly, truly. And you guys incorporate just as much of the technique in the group events and the fundraisers as you do if it were, well, maybe not like an individual session, but you guys come in and really make good adjustments. And it's truly for everybody, which is really cool, because for some people, this is going to be their first foray into this. And are you taking online clients at the moment?
Yes, we are taking online clients. We have some memberships available, and we have training available as well. And beginners and all skill levels are welcome.
Absolutely. I love that. One last thing, someone who is on their energetic spiritual journey based on everything you've learned up until this point. What's one piece of advice you would give them? One piece of inner Brandon wisdom?
So much.
I know.
I would say, do things that make you happy. Do things that make you happy.
Beautiful.
Do things that make you happy.
It's simple, but that is...
Yeah.
It's more challenging.
Do things you enjoy.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful having you.
We'll see you in like 10 minutes for a training session.
I was just going to say, let's go work out.
This podcast and website represents the opinions of Emily Marie and her guests to the show and website. The content should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical advice, recommendations, and questions. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast and website are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors.